First up is Black Widow. It is our first Marvel theatrical film, and I don't even know how long. That's not true. I know how long. It's been a very, very long time. It's also technically available on Disney Plus for premiere access, so you have to pay a little bit more. And this is one of those movies where I don't think it matters what I say about this film. You're going to go see it if you wanted to go see it because, again, it's our first Marvel film. It's our return to Marvel at the theater or at home, which is actually honestly how I watched it. And I wish I'd seen it at a theater, but it just the timing and it wasn't right for me. So it stars Scarlett Johansson again. She is back as Natasha Romanoff. This one takes place, this is not a spoiler, it takes place in the middle of the 10 years worth of events that we've watched unfold. And so in that sense, I wish so badly that this film had come out during sort of all the peak hype stuff where we didn't know what was going to unravel, because anytime you do a film that is going back in time, it's like, okay, well, as much as Marvel is playing with the multiverse, you generally know at least one certain character is going to survive. This is the same issue that is happening on the TV show Loki on Disney+, but by that token, that one's more dealing with multiverse stuff. The thing that really made this film for me is the addition of the other characters. Florence Pugh joins as Yelena, and I want everything with her, and I think we'll probably get everything with her. She is just so good. She matches Scarlett so well, like they play so well together. David Harbour is in this, Rachel Weisz, Ray Winstone, and it's directed by Kate Shortland, which was exciting, female director in the Marvel Universe, yay. I am not familiar with her work, and the screenwriter is Eric Pearson, who is one of the screenwriters of Thor Ragnarok, which is my favorite Marvel film, and I was like, this tracks. I think it's a nice balance of action and humor. This film is much more fun and buoyant than I think a lot of the last few Marvel films have been, and, you know, especially actually some of the male-led ones. Like, I like seeing the character of Black Widow get to sort of open up a little bit, and I think there's a huge family dynamic in it, and Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson's characters are very, like, sibling-like, and it's something that we see every once in a while in the MCU. I would say Thor Ragnarok is obviously the best example, but even a little bit of the sibling dynamic in the first Thor movie, you know, sometimes in Ant-Man or Guardians of the Galaxy we get these dynamics, and it's just refreshing for me, honestly, just because some of the ones are so self-serious, like a Doctor Strange, even though, again, they all try and have little bits of comedy, but I like it when they just commit. And not to say that this is a comedy. I am not a big Black Widow fan. I'm really not a Scarlett Johansson fan. And so the fact that I was like, oh, dang it, I really like this movie, is a win. I give them so much credit. The second half for me, actually even more fun. I feel like they really loosened up after they were like, okay, establish the world, get some action sequences in. Very action heavy. It would have been pretty cool to see on a big screen. I really like I've always admired the fighting style that they've given Black Widow. I give them respect for that. I can put aside my personal dislike for Scarlett Johansson, and I recognize that the character they've built, especially in this film, a much more interesting character than the one we've seen, I don't know, sometimes sidelined in the very early days. She definitely became more of a part of the Avengers as we grew along, but this really, really would have been so great if it had come out. I would have been a convert probably, but we get it when we get it. I was worried going in. I was not prepared to be a fan. I enjoyed it. You know, I think it's definitely one you could return to theaters for, but I also think it's actually okay to watch. I mean, I'm a big proponent of watch what you're comfortable with because, you know, we're still in a pandemic and you should feel safe while watching a movie. The other thing, you know, I'm just excited for, I was really worried that because I knew this was going back in the timeline that there wouldn't be anything to be excited for going forward. I get the sense that, and I've been getting this sense with all the other Marvel projects that have been coming out lately, you know, there's going to be more that we are going to be excited for in the next phase. And it would have been even more exciting, you know, had these come out when they were originally meant to, but pandemic, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Black Widow. I'm actually going to give it 4 out of 5. It was really fun. Florence Pugh is my favorite. She was just more of her character, please. So 4 out of 5 for Black Widow. And then the other film I have this week is called Zola. And this is actually the first film I went back to a theater for. It is not the film I would have expected myself to go back to a theater for. And yet I somehow found myself at a daytime showing because I really just wanted to see the movie and I wanted to support it. It is based on a series of tweets, and I know that is something that if you were to listen to this 10 years from now, probably won't make sense, and yet that's what it's based on. It's based on this entire epic series of tweets from a woman named Isaiah King, aka Zola, who is a dancer, and I'm saying that in quotes, which means she's a stripper, and there's nothing wrong with that, but she tweeted this insane, probably true, let's be honest, probably true story about her fallout with dealing with another dancer, and there's this, I can't even... So I knew that the tweet thread existed, and I knew that it was being made into a movie, and I actually refrained from reading the tweet thread because I was like, I just want to be surprised by this film. So rarely do I get to be surprised by things, and well, I was certainly surprised by this film. It certainly fell within the realm of where I thought it was going, but it kept escalating and escalating, and Taylor Page plays Zola, and she is just so good in this film. She's so good. Riley Keough plays the other woman involved, and then Nicholas Braun, Coleman Domingo, Jason Mitchell are all in it as well. It's very beautifully shot, and this is where my theater experience soured and became my first film back, and I was reminded that like other people very easily can ruin a film for you. So this film, because it deals with dancers, there was a lot of skin shown. That's just the places that they are in. So be prepared. You know, you're going to see a lot of nudity. You're going to see a lot of like dance moves. And I feel like this film showed them in a sexualized but not overtly sexualized way. I think a lot of that has to do with having a female director. But if you are determined to be gross, of course you can make those moments feel skeezy when they are not actually portrayed as skeezy. I feel like they're really actually portrayed in a really artistic way more often than not, and they're beautifully shot, but it's like, yeah, okay, it's like an ass clapping. Like, it's still inherently currently a sexualized act. And so there was a man who was not supposed to be in my theater. He was definitely he did not have a ticket. Do not know his homed situation, but he was catcalling at the screen the whole time. And it was so obnoxious. And then he would stop for a bit. So I was like, okay, do I not go get... And the theater, it was a midday screening because I was like, you know, if there's no one here, hooray, I will feel safer going to this. Nope, that man definitely ruined it. But to the film's credit, I would actually think, he went eventually from going, you know, ooh, dead ass and that type of stuff, to going, oh no, not Zola. So he got very invested in the story, which I guess is a win. You know, it took someone who probably did not buy a ticket and not know what the film was about and not, was not there for theater purposes to, it sucked him in. So I guess that's the power of this film. However, for me, not a pleasant experience, made it very uncomfortable, very sad. I don't know if I'm going back to a theater for a while as a byproduct of this. It also may have been the time and the place I was seeing it. Anyway, back to Zola. So be aware, very mature film, the content and the context, if you're not comfortable with that stuff, I would actually suggest, like, hey, maybe this is something that will get you more comfortable with it. It's just such a world that I don't think a lot of us have insight into, and it's told in such an interesting way. I think it's going to be a very of the moment film. A lot of it is just like the way they communicate feels very framed by social media. I recommend seeing this film. Maybe be aware of your surroundings and your fellow theater goers when you go see it. Maybe if you really aren't ready, you could see, this is not a big action one. It doesn't necessarily need to be seen on a big screen, but I think it's worth supporting. I'm going to give the film 4.1 out of 5 and the theater going experience 0 out of 5.